The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Patrick Walker, and Derek Eagleton.
Hello guys, welcome to another episode of The Break. I am hosting today, but I have Brian and Patrick here with me. Derek is busy with important meetings. We'll see what comes out of that. But in the meantime, we'll hold, like he did yesterday, we'll hold down the fort with us here. I wanted to start off the show by talking about some of the roster moves that have happened. Nothing creating big splashes or big news, but the Cowboys did release, they cut tackle Alex Taylor Priolo, and then linebacker Michael Jones on Monday, and then they did sign 4 players into the practice squad. So Patrick, I'll let you take a handle of those players, who they are, if there's much to say there as far as like what they're adding to the team.
Not a lot of digging in to these guys is available right now, but we have Eric Saubert, tight end. He was signed to the practice squad, as was Adam Pankey, a guard, Buddy Johnson, linebacker, and Chris Glazer, a guard. So 2 offensive linemen joined the Cowboys practice squad for insurance purposes, which is just, smart to do so. Michael Jones is being replaced by Buddy Johnson, and Brian and I were talking about this before we went hot. Interest in the length of time that Michael Jones was here. I mean, as far as it being shortened, Cowboys obviously got him in, didn't necessarily like what they saw from him in practices. He never got an elevation, and he was here for all of 3 calendar weeks if you're talking about 2 games and the bye week. So Michael Jones came in and never really had a shot. They did go out and get Rashaan Evans, obviously signed him to the practice squad, former first-round pick, no stranger to the big stage, Alabama product. Cowboys added a tight end, which also makes me wonder, and I'll get some more information on this after the show, talk to some folks, where Peyton Hendershot is with that ankle injury. That makes me wonder where Peyton Hendershot is. And Brian's probably thinking the same thing as well. You're going to add a tight end. Does that mean Hendershot's going to be out a longer period of time than maybe anticipated? So something to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, they've had some struggles with some of their point of attack blocking. And maybe Saubert is a guy, he went to a tiny school. He went to Drake. And nothing against Drake or tiny schools or anything like that. But he's one of those guys that's kind of bounced around the league. And so when you get a guy like that, it's, the development, is he a guy that's developing, and there's some clips I've seen of him. I haven't done a full-on report, but there's some people out there that have. And you could kind of see some clips of him as a blocker. It seems like something that's a little bit of a strength of his. He's one of those guys who has career, in college he caught like 183 passes, so he's capable of doing those types of things. But to Patrick's point, you wonder if, with the health of Hendershot, you need guys to practice. You need those bodies to practice and stuff. But they also might be looking at their situation with blocking. When you go back and as you study the all-22 from the Chargers game, they tried really hard in that game to use their tight ends at the point of attack. They tried to use their tight ends on the backside of some pulls to get to the point of attack, bringing in, they pull a guard or pull a tackle, and they were getting compressed and they were getting beat. And they were, it was a really rough game when it came to running the football. And you wonder if now it's like, do we need to go out and see if we can work out some guys to try and see if we can get some better blocking at the point of attack. And maybe Saubert is a guy that they kind of look at that, well, let's give him a shot and let's see. I mean, it's hard to do during these practices to see how a guy is going to be. So it's going to have to be, okay, what have the pro guys seen from him? Maybe there's some stops along the way in training camps where they can see that, well, this guy seems like a pretty good blocker. But That's saying a lot right now. They're just not as consistent as they need to be running the football, and some of it has to do with what's going on at the point of attack with their blocking.
And with the linebacker, what's interesting about Buddy Johnson is this is a homecoming for him. He's only 24 years old, but he's already a bit of an NFL journeyman, only 2 tackles in his NFL career, but he's Dallas born and bred, went to Kimball High School and Texas A&M product.
Right.
So he's coming back home. So this is obviously someone that the scouting department has some information on, from when he entered the NFL draft. So, insurance there because you needed that linebacker, and they're just ready to see what Buddy Johnson can do over what they saw or didn't see from Michael Jones.
Yeah, it's a good point. He was a guy that was, if you look at it, he was a 4th round pick in 2021. Mm-hmm. And he's, like Patrick said, he's made a lot of stops. The teams he's been with, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Houston, teams that play some pretty good defense and stuff. So somebody saw something in him as a player. At 6'1.5", he's 240 pounds. So he's got the size that they're looking for right now when it comes to that point of attack again, thumper, guy that can step up, play the run, and deal with that. A little bit more size, because the issues that they're running into, we've talked about this a bunch, when they play those nickel packages and stuff and they bring those safeties down, it's guys like Bell and Wilson, those guys, they're tough guys. They're just not big. And teams that they're gonna say, okay, when you get in that nickel, we're gonna run the ball at those guys. So just getting some linebackers with some size and some thump and some point of attack play to them might be something that is on their mind right now.
Well, with Sauber and Johnson, are you guys based on what you guys are saying, is there real possibility of them seeing the field at some point in the near future, or is it more just specifically you just need bodies?
I think right now, to answer that question, you need bodies, because if you look at it, and Brian makes an excellent point as far as Saubert and how he could maybe factor into the blocking occasion, but you're going to need to get Schoonmaker more involved as well. And then when you look at it from a linebacker perspective, you got to get Rashaan Evans on the field. You got to get Malik Jefferson continued to ramp up with Damone Clark, but you also don't want to take away any unnecessary reps from a guy like Marquise Bell, who is playing at a high level. So if you're Buddy Johnson, your mission is to get in here and not suffer the same fate that Michael Jones suffered. Yeah,
that's it right there. And I applaud them. There's so many times where teams just sit there in the practice squad and it's the same guys. You're looking at the same bodies every day, and you're thinking, well, this guy's not getting any better. I know it's hard to. When they have some padded practices, but it's not like they're going out there and really just taking a run at each other. You could see the movement. You could see how they step up. You could see how they go through the drills. But I give the front office some credit for this one, because to me, you just got to keep rotating that. You don't know if you're going to hit a guy like that. You don't know if Buddy Johnson all of a sudden, like in this scheme, it didn't work in Pittsburgh. It didn't work in San Francisco. But maybe it works here. Maybe something clicks for him, and then now you got a linebacker halfway through. But a lot of times these teams will just sit there with the same practice squad the whole year and not do anything, and you're not getting any better out of that. I'd still love for him to make a trade somehow, some way. We've talked about that a bunch around here. But at least they're trying to churn that practice squad and maybe find a guy that can fit what they're trying to do offensively and defensively.
Yeah, you never know where there is some hidden secret talent there. But okay, for now, let's put that aside, see what happens with that. As far as injuries, Cowboys coming off the bye week, where are they currently with the whole injury list?
Well, they're in good standing right now. IR notwithstanding, obviously they lost Leighton Vander Esch and C.J. Goodwin to IR prior to the bye week, but both of those players are working toward trying to return at some point this season. So there's some optimism there. But when you look at the laundry list of ailments that they were kind of dealing with going into the Los Angeles Chargers game, it sounds as if most, if not all of those, are near 100%. So Mike McCarthy said today today that Wanye Thomas, for example, he suffered a hamstring injury that popped up ahead of that game. He was ruled out of that game. He's going to be a full participant today in practice on Wednesday, as will every other player on the active roster. And I know that bodes very well for the Cowboys offensive line when you talk about Tyler Biadasz nursing an ankle, Tyron Smith with his knee, Zach Martin with the thigh. If all three of those guys are also full participants, that's just magnificent news, because this is going to be game 3 of that combination being together. And like we keep talking about, the more reps they get together, the more to pay dividends for them. So, yeah, expect the Cowboys to trend upwards as far as health. So the bye week, although it was a week earlier than it normally is, it couldn't have been at a better time for the Cowboys.
Yeah. Now, we throw around the word hopium that Brian likes to throw around here. So there's one thing what we hope for, and there's another thing, like realistically speaking, what are some of the main or biggest changes that you guys are expecting the Cowboys to make or have made during the bye week heading into this weekend? And we'll get into the Rams offense on the second segment. But for right now, realistically speaking, what are some of those changes?
What are you thinking, Brian?
Well, to me, they've got to figure out some things in the running game. And you couldn't practice all week because of collective bargaining, and players have to have the entire week off. So there's really nothing you could do. It was all really scheme related. But they've got to figure out a way to be more effective running the football. And they have to figure out a way to get Tony Pollard. They're getting him involved, but they're not getting him or creating any space. I mentioned the tight end blocking. They've tried to do it a couple of different ways with the zone schemes. They're just not very clean at the point of attack with the combo blocks, getting the second level linebackers. They played some good linebackers this year that have been able to run. But they got to figure out in this off week, is there a better way to run the ball? Against the Chargers, it was more about trying to pull guys. And we've talked to pin and pull is a word we use, down blocks, guys coming around. They just really weren't very effective at all. I mean, how are you not getting movement? Two of the best that we've seen in the past have been Zach Martin, playing on one leg right now, but hopefully better, and him and Steele. They've been able to get that right side, get that thing secure where they do get some push, and then the tight end is able to get a little shield block, and then they can run the ball. But they haven't really had enough space. To me, I'd like to see if during that bye week, when the coaches had an opportunity to sit down and self-scout, are we doing everything we need to run the ball effectively? They're going to have to be able to do it in the second half much better than what they've shown here in the first half of the season. And that's something that I think might look a little different. Like, okay, is it the way we're running it? Is it the sets? Is it the motions? Do we need to do it better at 11 personnel? Do we bring tight ends in? Does that make us compressed? I think these are all things they had to kick around during the bye week to try and figure out where they are.
And I agree, and I think what bodes well in that capacity is, as announced today by Mike McCarthy, Jeff Blasco is back at practice. He had a personal leave of absence due to some health issues. He missed several games over the first 6, but he returned during the bye week. He'll be back in practice this week, and I'm interested with his return. And for those that don't know, Jeff Blasco is both the run game coordinator and the running backs coach. So it goes right to the heart of Brian's point as far as being interested to see what this Cowboys rushing attack looks like going into week 8 and going forward, particularly with Blasco now back on the field, as opposed to his duties with coordinating the run game being kind of split between other assistants and position coaches. So, but for me, it goes back to, I still want to see the deep middle part of the field exploited. I want to see those shots being taken. A little bit of optimism, and you go back and look at the Chargers game. They took 1 or 2 shots there, and it paid off for them. So for me, it's bringing that pendulum back to center and not being fearful of attacking the middle of the field. Make the opposing defense cover 3/3 of the field as opposed to just the boundaries, because that's going to stretch those safeties. And that's going to open up plays down the field, more explosiveness. We want to see explosiveness. We want to see those vertical routes, those 9 routes on the outside. Well, it's going to be harder if safeties and opposing defensive coordinators know they don't have to worry about the middle chunk of the field. So exploit that, take those shots. And yes, sometimes it's not going to work out for you. Sometimes it's going to be an interception. But I'm on record as saying I would rather, as long as it doesn't cost the Cowboys games, I would rather the Dak Prescott Prescott that throws, for 35 touchdowns but has 12 interceptions, and the Cowboys are 12-5, 13-4, versus the Dak Prescott that throws, 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, but you're 9-8, and you're in a wild card situation. So
if you're winning games, you can care less about interceptions.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's been proven time and time again. It's been proven around the league. It's why Jalen Hurts is being excused for, almost leading the league in turnovers and interceptions right now. It's because the Eagles are winning games. Yeah. So if you win games, the rest becomes forgivable. Winning cures everything, as the saying goes. So take those shots deep middle and really put pressure on the opposing defense.
On the defensive side of the ball, I think you have to look at, we now have a game without Leighton Vander Esch playing as a linebacker. Mm-hmm. So now teams will have a look at Damone Clark and Bell and other guys like that. And so I think in the bye week there, Dan Quinn now has to.
Which they did okay.
They did
good,
absolutely.
But you don't know how much that's going to hold up.
Exactly. The big question was, Clark had played really well against New England, and the other games he hadn't played is to the level that I know that I thought I've seen him play at such a high level at LSU, and I just kind of expected. I know he's coming off the back and all that. The fact that he even played last year is just beyond me. But he did a great job with that. But the thing about it is, now with him being the primary linebacker and then others having to fill in, I think that's something it's all on tape now with what the Chargers game was. Will Sean McVay and the Rams, how will they attack this group? So it's going to be up to Dan Quinn to kind of figure out what's the next move. Am I going to be able just to sit in there with Bell and these others just, playing that Bell and Clark and those guys playing technique, or do I have to be a little bit more creative and keep them from maybe getting exposed until Vander Esch gets back?
Wonderful point. And what will work in the Cowboys' favor is that while the Rams and other teams, they've now seen what the linebacker core looks like without Leighton Vander Esch. They can try to map around that. Yeah. They haven't seen what the Cowboys linebacker core looks like with Rashaan Evans in it.
Right.
So there is a chance that Rashaan Evans makes his debut for the Cowboys against the Rams. Of course, that is contingent upon how practice goes this week, but that could be a variable that works in favor for the Cowboys, is that teams just don't know what Rashaan Evans looks like with Dan Quinn coordinating them.
They thought something. It was kind of strange to me. They thought something that they could get a scheme package with that Tyrus Wheat playing, and I didn't. And his first game was rough, but I didn't. That's what coaches do. They come up with, well, we think we could take advantage of this. We could use this guy, use that guy. And so I wonder if there's some other move that they're thinking about, because, like I said, I didn't really understand. Wow, Wheat, they bring him up. Here we go. Sign him. Let's go. And now he's part of the plan early in that football game. And you're like going, was that really what they wanted or envisioned for that? So coaches are always coming up with ideas, and Dan will be no different this week. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and get into the Rams, the breakdown of the Rams offense against this Cowboys defense.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys. And now he's on his phone, on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't-stop-banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Make a statement this football season with the new Nike Volt collection, a bold collection of neon accents that will make you stand out like a star that you are. Head to the pro shop near you or log on to shop.dallascowboys.com. A Fanatics experience.
Welcome back. This is the second segment of the break presented by blockchain.com.
Ding.
Nice.
Ding, ding. So we did find out some exciting news this morning about DeMarcus Ware and his induction to the Ring of Honor, which will be held this weekend. Patrick, tell us the details of that.
Well, DeMarcus Ware, immortalized this past August in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, joins greats like Jerry Jones and Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman in the long list of Dallas Cowboys. They should just build another building up there in Canton for Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. But Ware is also being inducted, as you said, into the Cowboys' coveted Ring of Honor. That ceremony will occur this Sunday at halftime when the Cowboys take on the Rams. So big news for the Werewolf. The second part of his immortalization will happen this weekend.
It's fun.
There you go.
Fun to always see those events happen at the stadium during a game. It's always fun stuff and exciting times for him. Yep. So super cool.
Make sure you go out and win for Ware. Don't lose on Ware's big day. There you go.
All right, let's go ahead and start breaking down this offense. Yeah. Brian, we're gonna go through blocks and we're gonna start off with the quarterback.
Right.
And what do they got right now?
Yeah, Matthew Stafford is their guy. And, Matthew has dealt with some injuries last year where really it was a problem for him. They didn't protect him very well. He took a lot of shots during the game. I mean, shots as hits, not actual physical shots with syringes or anything like that. But he dealt with a concussion.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, he dealt well when you say shots. Or you can talk about fireball, too, is another thing he could have done. And Matthew probably would. But, with concussions he dealt with, he had the spinal cord contusion last year. That's the one thing that knocked him out. It happened to him in Week 14. So far, so good for him. He's only really dealt with one thing in Week 4. He had a hip injury that kind of slowed him down a little bit against the Colts, but he came back in the game and was able to win the game. He wasn't moving around too well, but he was able to finish the game and grab that victory. So, good for him. He's always been a super tough guy when you watch him play. He's got a resilient ability to just kind of keep fighting throughout a game. He moves well enough in the pocket, but he's not one of these quarterbacks that's going to run away from you. He'll hold the ball until the very last possible second before letting it fly. You can watch him. He's like a baseball pitcher. His platform is usually like he'll throw it sidearm to get it around a guy. He'll loop it over the top. He's got touch. He's not afraid to throw the ball. He's one of those guys, though, that's always been a good tight window thrower. But if you look at the metrics they talk about, he hasn't made as many tight window throws this year. So he's kind of choosing more of the guys that have some separation or that are completely wide open. But he's not afraid because he has the arm talent still to get the ball anywhere he wants to put that football. The primary routes that he throws are the in-cutting routes. We worried about that a little bit with what's going on with Gilmore. Will we see those routes? Will they make Gilmore chase? That's something that the Rams like to do. They'll get the receivers and then they'll run them on these in routes. They like to try and trail each other. So all of a sudden you got a guy that they'll run guys. They'll delay a guy behind another guy, run the route, and then run another route behind that to try and give you a little bit more of confusion right there. So Stafford, but it's going to be to get those routes off, you got to have protection, and that's kind of been a little bit of a problem for them. The metrics will tell you that teams will play more zone coverage against him than they will man. It's about a 70-30 split against him, and then he gets blitzed about 30% of the time. his pressure rate is about 41%. So you can kind of see nearly half the time he's throwing the ball with somebody in his face. Primarily, he operates out of what we call 11 personnel. That's one running back, 3 wide receivers. This is 93% of the time. So the Cowboys are going to be in nickel really the entire time in this game, as with the Rams being on the field.
So how well can he keep his composure, the mental toughness? Because you say with the injury history and all that, and him maybe not running as much or running around too well, if you get a bunch of pressure, and then you said he throws the ball away.
Yeah.
How much mental toughness does he currently?
No, it's the word I use, and it's terrible English, but I wrote in terrible English all the time, and Dave Hellman always corrected it for me. I said super impressive toughness. Super being like, there's quarterbacks in this league that are tough. I think Matthew Stafford is on a whole nother level. If you look throughout his career at Detroit, he took a beating in Detroit. They trade him to the Rams. He wins a Super Bowl there, and then the team kind of falls apart around him. The offensive line, we'll get into that. This is a big problem for them. But he's always been able to maintain that toughness. You see him get hit time after time after time, and then he's back still throwing the football, sidearm, underhand, whatever he has to do. That doesn't waver with the way you watch him play at all.
And when it comes to Matthew Stafford, and of course I've been watching him since his college days,
Georgia,
because right. So, go Dogs. So to Brian's point, I mean, when it comes to mental toughness and physical toughness, Matthew Stafford has those in spades. But objectively speaking, he's also boom or bust when it comes to his style of play. He's either going to light you up for 4 or 5 touchdowns, or he's going to throw 4 or 5 interceptions in that game, trying his best to light you up for 4 or 5 touchdowns. So the opportunities for takeaways will be there as long as you get the pressure on Matthew Stafford, and the Cowboys have the highest pressure rate in the NFL. I would love for this to be the game where more of those pressures get home, but the pressures are disruptive nonetheless. So if you can get in Matthew Stafford's space, I mean, he's mentally tough. He's going to stand there and he's going to make that throw, but the throw isn't always going to be the smart throw. So if you can get him early on to make a mistake, then that'll get him kind of rolling in the wrong direction. But if he gets on kind of a hot streak early, you might be in for kind of a long day there.
Well,
especially with guys like Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later. But right now, what I'm visualizing, it looks more positive for the Cowboys and their defensive line and the pressure. So let's get into those guys are around him, protecting him and creating that pocket for him.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Rams and the offensive line, it's really short on household names. Most teams you play, there's 2 or 3 guys or 2 guys that you kind of know that, okay, this is an all-pro guy, Pro Bowl guy, or this is a good ascending guy. The only bright spot I see right here is Steve Avila. And he's when you look at, he's a rookie from TCU. He's from Arlington here, which is kind of cool for him to be able to come home and play. In college at TCU, Avila played every offensive line position. They've got him playing guard here. He's not the best athlete, but his power makes up for any shortcomings that he might have. If you try and rush him down the middle, he is going to be a hard guy to move. You just can't run through this guy. He's got a great base. He's physical. He's strong. He's really sturdy if you just try and run over the top. Where he does have troubles is with movement. And, there were some teams that gave him some problems in these games that I watched. He's a rookie. I think this is where maybe that Osa Odighizuwa can take a little bit of an advantage of him, because the more quickness that he deals with, you see him, it kind of affects the way that he sets and the way that he moves. You could take him one way, take him back the other, and then get on his shoulder and go. But if you're going to rush him down the middle, you're going to lose all day. He's just going to sit down but he's a good young lineman for them. He's getting better every game that I watched. Where they struggle is Ulrich Jackson and Rob Havenstein are, these guys are the tackles. And I think you could take advantage of them because the Steelers, if you watch the Steelers, and I kind of can look at the Steelers the same way with the Cowboys with their ability to play on the edge and have these pressure players. And these two tackles really struggled with movement. And I mean movement of not just running, but it was like that quick, just that initial shoulder shake or that press and then go back the other way. These guys just don't move very well when it comes to dealing with initial bursts from those edge rushers. So you can kind of get them off on the wrong foot, and that kills their balance, and then you work around them or you work inside. I just think this is one of those games where you need to pressure both of them throughout. Don't give them any easy rushes. Make sure you're on the movement. You're trying to get them off balance because they'll struggle with that. The Steelers did a great job of just every attacking rush was a movement, and it got them off balance, and then they were able to get to Stafford there. So they will do a much, they're a group that will struggle, like I mentioned in that. Their center I want to talk about is Coleman Shelton, and what's unusual about him is he's really good at helping his teammates, his line mates when he's uncovered. I'd cover him. I'd make sure somebody's on him because he's not going to win a lot of battles one-on-one. But he's much better at helping when he can kind of see, like, oh, hey, my guard needs help here, or or I got to kind of keep an eye on the rusher over here. He's good at doing that and having that kind of awareness. But when he has the one-on-one assignment, it's a little bit of a problem for him. It's unusual for him is he's one of these rare centers that snaps the ball left-handed, too. So it's a little bit different look. When you look down the line, you're used to seeing those right-handed centers. He's a left-handed center, so it'll just kind of be a little bit different for your eye when you're looking inside and trying to get off on the ball there.
So is this a situation where you guys feel that the Cowboys D-line can start getting more pressures and stacking up those sacks, getting back into actually getting a sack?
I think this is a good matchup for the Cowboys defensive line. The talent that they have going across the board, when you look at how it matches up against the talent on the Rams offensive line, I mean, advantage Cowboys in a big way. I think this is a game where they can get pressures, particularly in the interior. Like you said, keep an eye on Osa. I think Osa wrecks this game, which then opens the door for guys like Mike and DeMarcus Lawrence. And I mean, you might even see Jonathan Hankins get back there a few times.
Sure.
The question has been, like you said, will they start getting home more often than not? Well, you're going against one of the few matchups in which the quarterback is not mobile, doesn't have a ton of escapability in Matthew Stafford. So if ever there was a game that was kind of set for you to kind of tee off on the quarterback, like this is it. You're not going to have to contend with Joshua Dobbs' legs or Daniel Jones's legs or any of that nature. It's Matthew Stafford. He's a pocket guy. He's not one that likes to leak out of the back end of the protection and rattle off a first down. He's going to be back there. The Cowboys are going to get back there. Matter is, after that, put your hands on them.
All right, let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll start talking about some of those offensive weapons that they do have at wide receiver.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
All right, what do we got here? Rally Days, presented by SeatGeek, give NFL fans an experience of a lifetime the day prior to the Dallas Cowboys home games on October 28th. Enjoy activities at Miller Lighthouse, get a behind-the-scenes tour of AT&T Stadium and more. Visit AT&TStadium.com/Rally Days for more information and to get your tickets today.
All right, thank you, Brian. Welcome back to the third segment. So far, so good. I like this report, Brian. So don't change it up now that don't start going the other way now that we're about to get into wide receivers and what they got going on.
I think this is really the strength of their offense when you look at they've done it. They've gotten Cooper Kupp back. We all kind of understand Cooper Kupp and what he's done. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury, but now he's back. He's played in a couple of games. For them, it's really good to have him back in the mix. What makes him so difficult to deal with is he lines up all over the place. He'll split time between the slot and the outside wide. It's almost 50-50 where they line him up. I mean, they just don't say, okay, we're going to just put you in the slot or we're just going to put you outside. I mean, it's really legitimately split 50-50 where they're going to try and put him. The majority of his targets have come from the slot, and the majority of his receptions, it's funny, have come from the outside. So they throw the ball to him inside, but they have more receptions with him on the outside. So just, that's kind of a little something crazy to kind of keep in mind there, though. His separation is interesting, too. He gets less separation from the slot than he does on the outside, which is, you usually think like in the slot you have this, you have the ability to use the whole field. You have what they call a two-way go where you can just kind of go anywhere you want. On the outside, you kind of have a prescribed route that you run.
It kind of contradicts itself.
Exactly. It's a weird thing, but he's really good at catching the football. He makes super tough catches. He's tough. He'll take a hit. He's one of those guys that likes to come across the middle. You give him the ball, and then he's going to make big plays. It's very similar to what you kind of saw in the receivers in San Francisco, that shallow cross, hit him with the pass, let him go up the field. Or, kind of run him a little bit deeper, intermediate across the field, throw him the ball, let him run. He's one of those, he's a very, very talented receiver in that way. We talked about Puka Nacua, and this guy's been a steal for the Rams through the first 7 games of the season. It really burst on the scene because he was filling in for Cooper Kupp. And, but they use him like Cooper Kupp. And so now it's more of with Kupp back, he's kind of gone to a more of an outside role. But man, every time Stafford throws in the ball, it just doesn't matter where it is. He's going to catch it. He's just, that's the way he plays. And I just was super impressed with him and his ability to come in and the nuances of the game and running routes and all that. It's been really impressive. You got to be aware both these guys are very similar to how they play. They play inside, they play outside, they drag routes, they go up the field, they turn around, you throw them the ball, they run. It's really, really, it's been impressive. I think that he has more quickness than what you have from Cooper Kupp. And, that's something that you're going to have to deal with right there because he has the ability to create that separation. But the third guy I want to point out, too, is Tutu Atwell. Mm-hmm. And like his teammates, the majority...
They have some fun names out there.
They have some great names. Tutu Atwell is the majority of his work is done on the outside because you got these other 2 guys that really work on the inside. Where he presents a problem is they bring him into the formation. He's the guy they're always going to put on the move. So, the guys will be stationary, and then they'll bring Atwell in motion. They'll make it a trips formation, scatter. They'll move him across. They'll bring him by himself. But he's the one guy that's constantly moving. So if in zone coverage, you got to be aware of him starting on one spot and then ending up where you're at. Or if you're in man, you got to be ready to travel across with him. and deal with that or bump out, whatever you have to do. But he's the guy that's on the move. He makes a lot of big plays in the middle of the field. There's times where Stafford is wearing defensive linemen and he just fires the ball in the middle of the field. Outwell goes down low, catches the ball right off the top of the turf. And so he's one of those guys that, like I say, you got to be aware of him moving around and because of the motions to just kind of create issues. And then also with Kupp and Nakua, two very similar guys to how they play. So they've got a pretty solid receiving core with those three guys.
Yeah.
So how do you see the Cowboys defending this? How do you see these matchup and how they're lining up?
The good news for the Cowboys is they have the horses. Even without Trayvon Diggs, you still have a very, very physical and sticky defensive back in both Deron Bland and Jordan Lewis. As long as you can try to limit the number of times that you see Gilmore getting kind of trailed or dragged across on slants, which is how offenses are starting to take advantage of Gilmore. Yeah. If you can keep Gilmore playing straight up with his guy, then that's a matchup that you win. And Deron Bland and Jordan Lewis, they have the physicality to disrupt at the line of scrimmage. So, no other way to put it other than how Brian put it. You're going to have your hands full with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. That's a lot of quickness, that's a lot of speed, and that's a lot of catch radius. But also keep an eye on a guy like Tyler Higbee.
That's going
to be the pressure release valve for Matthew Stafford. So if you're covering well on those receivers, you better make sure if you're Jaron Kearse, if you're those linebackers, if you're those safeties, keep an eye on Tyler Higbee. He doesn't have any touchdowns yet this season, but that doesn't mean that can't change at the blink of an eye. So they got some weapons around Matthew Stafford, but as it goes, if you want to neutralize the weapons, you take out the quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, with Higbee, what are some of his strengths and his abilities?
He is a much better receiver than he is a blocker, and what they do, unfortunately for him, is they put him in a lot of car crashes. Is what they do. They'll bring him in motion and they'll let him block at the point of attack, and he's just not equipped to do that. He'll try, but man, he gets wore down, blocking on the backside in the running game, blocking front side in the running game. There's a lot of things they ask him to do that he's just not it's not his strength at all. His strength is getting up the field and then playing in the slot. He kind of plays, there's a lot of routes that he runs where he's near the line of scrimmage or on next to the tackle, what we call in line, right next to the tackle. But a lot of his work also is done detached in the slot where he can kind of work a little bit in space. So it just depends on when they get in there 11 personnel, he is always going to be the tight end in 11 personnel. So it's those three wide receivers and then Higbee. Some teams treat Higbee like he's a wide receiver. Like when you put a guy like a linebacker or a safety that's not really comfortable in coverage, he has success. But if you kind of treat him with a corner or somebody that can run with him, it makes it a little bit more difficult for them. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on how do you match those wide receivers that we talked about.
Like Patrick said.
Yeah.
Attack the quarterback.
Well, that's the advantage you have right there, your pass rush.
Yeah. Yep.
Your pass rush is an advantage over this offensive line. And can you get to Stafford before the ball comes flying out of there? That's where this
the recipe.
That's it right
there. Well,
there.
let's go ahead and, since we're running out of time, jump into the running game and how well they run the ball.
Yeah, they've struggled a little bit because Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson are now the primary backs. Kyren Williams is an ankle injury, and he's been out. He's on IR. But they did a really good job. Freeman and Henderson ran the ball for over 120 yards last week against the Steelers. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be shotgun, handoff like from the sidecar, handed inside, or it's going to be the pistol straight behind and just turn and hand it. When they go under center, it's usually like when they get like the Cowboys run the same thing. Dak takes the snap, turns and hands the ball to Pollard, and they just attack the middle of the line. There's a couple of different ways, but it's going to be like that. It's going to be zone blocking. It's going to be outside, and just kind of let the back. Freeman is a really big guy. He's 238 pounds, so he's kind of a guy that's not really quick. he's just downhill and tries to be physical with you. Henderson on their side, smaller, quicker.
Does he usually get extra yards after?
Yeah, the contact and stuff like that. I was surprised at how well they ran the ball against the Steelers. That was like, whoa. That was kind of like, you don't always expect teams, when you think about the Steelers and run defense, it's usually pretty solid right there. But they got hit for about $120 in this game. Freeman had 60, Henderson had 60. So that was pretty eye-opening for me. The thing that I like about Henderson is that he is smaller, he's quicker, and he's more decisive where he's going to go with the football. So, you got to be ready. One guy is just going to try and run over you, and one guy's going to be a little bit more shifty in the way that he plays.
Just to close off today's show, is this, since we talked about linebacker at the beginning of the show, is this a game where possibly now we do see the linebackers struggle more than what we saw the last game?
I don't see why this would be a game where they'd be expected to struggle any more than a matchup like against Austin Eckler, for example. Yeah. I think the corners are the corners, and I mean that you have, because of the capability and the ability of the corners and the defensive backs, you don't necessarily need linebacker help there. Okay, so you get to allow your linebackers to more so focus on run support, and a guy like Williams who can catch the ball out of the backfield as well as Eckler can do. So the confidence there is you've now seen them shut down guys like Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler. That gives you confidence that the linebacker core can do that, hopefully against a guy like Williams as well. And outside of last week, a rushing attack from the Rams that is not their strength. That's not their bread and butter, and that's what they've been struggling at. So it's a Cowboys run defense that 1 or 2 games notwithstanding has looked very good, even in the absence of Leighton Vander Esch last week, versus a rushing attack from the Rams that is not their primary goal. That's not the bread and butter. And when they go to it, it typically, more often than not, hasn't gone well. So I think the linebackers are in a good matchup.
I think the Chargers had a better offensive line than what the Rams
100%.
So if you can take advantage, if you can stop Austin Eckler the way that they did and play run defense to the level you played against the Chargers, you should not have a problem against these Rams.
And then your pass rush needs to just get home.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for today.
Rams got better receivers.
Get home.
Yeah. Again, if you disrupt the pass and get to the quarterback, then you should be good. And hopefully some interceptions come from that, and the Cowboys can get their hands on the ball again. And maybe scoring points, too. Who knows?
That'd be fun.
That'd be fun, right? Remember week 1?
Shall we?
That was fun.
Shall we?
All right. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for everyone who listened. This has been it for Brian Broaddus, Patrick Walker, and Ember Garcia. This has been The Break on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!